Welcome to video 12. Just have one more piece of functionality to add to our categories object. So let's add a little bit of extra space down at the bottom of this file, and we're going to separate this out into another section. So up top here we had getting and setting categories. This section will handle the creation of page parts. So whereas this function here, this method, because we're talking about objects, because this method will return actual data in the form of an array, what we're going to be creating down here within the create page parts section is actual HTML code that gets displayed. So let's get started on this. We're going to do public function and we're going to do create category nav, and it's going to have an active argument, which is by default set to null. And let's add some documentation. So this particular method will return an unordered list of links to all category pages. And for a param, it'll take a string, which is optional. And for return, it returns a string. Within this method, we need to start by getting all categories. So I've set up a temporary categories variable. It's going to get this, get categories. So now this categories will hold an array of arrays, each representing one of our categories. We're going to want to set up an all item. So basically this is an item in the array or an item in our navigation that links back to the home page, which shows all products irregardless of category. So I'm going to set up a data variable. I'm going to have it start, open an li. Then I'm going to check if active, and I'm going to use the string to lower function. So I'm going to check if the active variable that is getting passed in this method is home. Then I'm going to do data dot equals to add it, and then class equals active. And then data dot equals, and I'll close out the beginning of that list item. I'll add in a link. And here I'm going to use the site path constant. That's going to link back to our home page. And we close off the link A, go view all, and then close off the link and close off the list item. And then, now that the view all link is in place, we need to loop through each category. So first thing we need to do is we need to check, use the space before and after like our style guide tells us to. And we need to check, is the categories array empty? And if it's not, then we go and we loop through it using a for each loop. Like so. Then we basically do what we did up here. We do data dot equals li. We're going to check string to lower active, and we're going to compare that against the string to lower of the category name. And if so, then we're going to add the active class. And then we'll finish off the rest of the list item and a link. And then we're going to do index.php question mark ID equals. And at this point, we're going to put the category ID. And then we'll close off the link. We'll put the category name. And close off the link and close off the list item. And then all the way at the end of this method, return data. So, because I know this was probably a little confusing, let me go over it briefly one more time. So the first section, we get all of our categories. So this should be an array of the different categories in the store. We're going to set up an all item, which links back to the home page. And it double checks if the active variable passed in is set to home. That's going to be the active item in this navigation. Then, assuming the categories variable is not empty, it's going to loop through each of the categories in the array, and each array item will become an individual category every time it's looped. And then for each category, it's going to add a list item. It checks to see if that particular list item should be active, and if it does, it adds the active class. Otherwise, it just continues going. It adds a link, specifically a link to index.php, and it sets an ID variable in the name, which will be used to determine what category we want to view. That's what the category ID is for. And then the actual link in the navigation, the text in that link, is the name of the category. And then we close off the link, we close off the list item, and we return the data. So let me save this file. Let's go back into our index.php. We can delete this testing code. And we can delete our set data and set alert. So then we want to display this navigation within the view. So I'm going to start by getting the category navigation. And I'm going to call it category nav equals like so. Oopsie. And I'm going to say that the home item is selected. And then I want to pass that category nav to the view. So I'm going to do template set data. And I'm going to call this page nav. Pass in category nav. And then we just need to modify our view to make sure that we can display this data. So views, v public home. Excuse me, we want to open up the header instead. So rather than this nav, instead of these list items, which we can delete, we can do this get data page nav. There we go. And let's test this. Hopefully everything will work fine. Get cat. Oopsie, misspelled it. I'm sure you already caught that. So what I did is I called it create category nav. The reason why I used create originally was because I wanted to use this particular term to indicate that we were actually creating something. We are generating HTML. Whereas with this, we're just using get, which means we aren't touching the data at all, we're just returning it. So rather than get, it's create, and hopefully that'll take care of things. There we go. So you'll notice we now have a function in navigation. It links out to our individual categories, and if you look in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you'll notice that I have index.php ID equals 3, ID equals 2, and ID equals 1. So it is working like I expect it to. If you click on it, you'll notice the URL does change. Doesn't actually do anything yet, but we'll be working on that in future videos.